In this episode of the Omega Podcast, we have the founder of Simple Legal Consulting from Costa Rica sharing with our founder on digital nomads moving to Costa Rica, immigration, advice for digital nomads, and much more. Digitized for excellence.
Welcome to the Omega Podcast with Herman Duarte, founder of Simple Legal Consulting. Is an immigrant from El Salvador who became a Costa Rican citizen after 13 years in Costa Rica. He holds a master's degree from Stockholm University and the London School of Economics, renowned for his expertise in investment and immigration law. He is recognized as one of the top lawyers in the region and is one of the only 31 attorneys acknowledged by the UK Embassy in Costa Rica out of 34,000 lawyers nationwide. It is a pleasure to have you on the Omega Podcast, Herman.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. And I hope some Costa Rica immigration talk becomes relevant for your audience that I know is mostly American. But Costa Rica could be an interesting country to either to relocate or to do some nearshoring. You know, a lot of companies, multinationals, set up businesses here. Their operation centers, their cost centers, due to the incentive, the magical word people like to hear, right? No taxes. So, yes.
Yes, that's definitely the key word, no taxes. But I think based upon your bio, many people really appreciate hearing your story of starting Simple Legal Consulting. Can you share with our audience sort of the start to finish of your business venture journey?
Well, I don't know where to start, but I can tell you that it began in the pandemic. In the pandemic years, I was with a sanitary order that I couldn't leave the house for 15 days. You know, when the COVID thing happened, people didn't really understand how it worked, and I was just coming back from London, and here in Costa Rica, it was mandatory to stay for 15 days in your home. So I was so bored, like on day 7, nothing else to do, just being on LinkedIn at that time, I remember, and online, whatever. And I saw someone that had a law firm called Complex Legal Studios. And when I saw that, I was like, no, I don't want anything complex in my life. And I do believe that words are some sort of spells. Like if I tell you, Akina, you look great today. What a beautiful shirt you're wearing on. You're going to start feeling, wow, thank you. You know, and same goes with the spells and power that words have. And that's how I decided I need something that will attract clients in a simple way, without difficulties, without hardship, without, struggling, because this is my 4th law firm attempt. And fortunately, this one really worked. And the other ones was very hard to get clients, to attract clients. But with this name, it feels that there's so much traction, and every day is like one call after another call, one lead after another. And when you focus on consistently in sending a clear message to people, we want to simplify your legal problems, simplify your moving and relocation to Costa Rica, simplify the process of investing in Costa Rica, then it's very easy for people to know, okay, this is what you do. Okay, I get it. I want it. And always focus on customer service. Sometimes this will lead to lose money a little bit, but on the long term, if you have a happy customer that creates a good energy towards you, that will attract you more energy. Yesterday that we were preparing about this podcast, we were talking about different hotels in Miami as well, and there's this hotel in Miami and many other cities called the Ritz-Carlton, and they have a $2,000 rule, which allows them to, I don't know if it's either the Ritz-Carlton or the Ritz, but one of these two, which allowed them, any employee of the company, that they can make a decision up to the value of $2,000 to solve whatever problem any client might have. And even though I don't have that rule, I do have a focus on extreme customer service should be number 1 priority, even if this has to be incurring in some expenses. So that could be a summary of the essence of my company. Like it was created in between of the pandemic, and with the spirit of simplifying life that was already complex at that time.
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you sharing how this isn't the first business you've started. You've had three other ventures that had proven to be unsuccessful, but that didn't stop you and you continued to proceed with your vision for your life. And I really appreciate that because a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs start a business venture and they realize after a few months, things aren't working out. I'm not generating enough sales. So they just kind of ditch it and then just go. But I really appreciate how you realize, hey, there's a change that I can make, perhaps to the name of the business that might be able to generate new funnels of business opportunities. Can you sort of share what about simple legal consulting, just started out as something that was just going to attract your clientele? Was it through other marketing efforts that you saw with other companies? Was it just stuck with you? Just to kind of share how that name trademarking helped with just making that decision.
I tell you that I did a very strategic plan and I sit down with a bunch of people designing will be a lie. It has been a pretty much of a process of like a process of how do you say, like ongoing improvement. Like, okay, I'm exploring this area. If this area doesn't work, I move to this other area. Where do I see that there is energy? Where do I see that there are people asking for services? I have a master's degree in arbitration, in international arbitration, and before, when I was in a larger structure, in a bigger law firm, I was working on that 24/7. But now, as a small law firm, no clients, or maybe 3 or 4 clients every year asking for arbitration services. And that's totally fine. Like if I'm just waiting for these people to come over and not adapt myself to where people is asking me for services, which is investing, helping them set up companies, like adapt myself in doing immigration advice, doing contracts. That's where people is asking me for services. So I would say it's important to keep your eyes open and to keep yourself flexible and not, like just the fact because you have a specialty doesn't mean that that's a limitation. A specialty should be something in addition, not the only thing you do. So I would say that it's important to keep yourself open on what might come your way and how you can adapt to provide excellent customer service, which requires skills, ability, and of course, a lot of empathy towards people. Like other thing that I can tell you is, in my case, it has worked quite a lot to have a low cost infrastructure. It works quite well for me to have almost like a digital law firm. I do have an office, but I barely go. And before meeting clients in an office, I prefer to go for dinner or lunch with them and try to connect, because at least this business lawyer and the area where I am, which is immigration, is a lot of personal connection with you and the client, because the client it's not any type of lawyer, like it's not like a corporate lawyer that you can change so easily. You're gonna be sharing very intimate plans of your dreams and goals and how you want to settle in a foreign country, and you're gonna be their first contact and their first point of contact with so many things. Like, okay, I'm gonna buy a property, I need to tell my lawyer. I'm gonna buy a car, I want to go with my lawyer. I want to set up a company, I'm gonna go with my lawyer. I need to hire an accountant, I'm gonna ask my lawyer for recommendations. And the fact that there's a lot of people that will also put the dreams and hopes on your hands is a big responsibility. So I try to focus on an open channel communication with my clients, give them my personal number. They can reach out anytime, avoid charging them by hour, but more seeing them as persons rather than just a number to get more money,
For sure. And I really think your structure being low cost is very helpful because we're talking to a lot of digital nomads, individuals that are part of hybrid working models within companies. And I noticed that at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned at the peak of COVID-19 that you've noticed that there's been an upward trend of people moving out of the US or moving out of wherever their designated country is to places like Costa Rica. Have you seen that being very helpful for your business venture? Have you seen it being kind of challenging because now there's more competition in the marketplace for other immigration lawyers, especially within Costa Rica?
Look, I'm a small fish within the market, and I don't care about the competition. I just care about having clients and my clients being super happy with me, and they recommended me with more clients. I'm very fortunate to have clients that are owners of Fortune 500 companies, that they choose me over getting the typical corporate law firm. They're looking for something else. I have clients that have been directors of Coca-Cola for a continent in Africa. I have clients that, all sort of clients, like young entrepreneurs to family who are just middle class people, or ex Marines, and like some people might focus on their competition quite a lot, but I just focus on giving extraordinary services and sharing good content on my website so people can feel free to contact me. I help myself with technology as well, just like your company that helps so much in other companies to use technology. For me, it's critical, to instead of having a secretary, I have a automatic calendar app that helps me coordinate my calendars. I don't need a secretary. So I save money there. There are small glitches that you can do to save money. And instead of getting anxious about this law firm being more successful than mine, I focus on myself and growing on myself. Every person has its process, and every person grows differently. There are law firms that start in 1 year and then all of a sudden they have 25 employees, and that's fine with them. And that's great. But it's best to focus on what you like, what you want, and not try to follow standard, how's it called, standard solution that might be not exactly what you're looking for.
Right. And I think you also had shared that you're very cost effective and you're very much into different technological tools and digital tools that will help you lower costs for your business. I think in our previous conversation, you shared that you leverage AI SEO tools and you're interested in, online AI calendars to kind of alleviate perhaps even hiring a full-time or part-time staff member. Now, was that part of your plan to just keep your costs reduced, to keep your business going, or is it more of a strategic plan of sort of playing the long game and just kind of reserving that capital?
I think it was more of that now that you see it and you look at hindsight. But in the reality was that when I started my business some years ago, I only had a very, very small capital, and was either I joined to another law firm or I see what I can do. And what I could afford was to have a digital office, like a co-working space. I'm talking to the year 2017. And I Googled how to make a website and I created my website. That's how I started. I don't want to come here with with some story that is not what it was. And I learned how to do my website on Squarespace. And fortunately, since last year, I hired someone that has helped me out on the SEO. And that has been a critical part of my success. I have been approached by larger law firms to either be acquired or to open a branch, but I rejected those possibilities at that time. But I'm still open to see what it could happen. You never have to say never, but I always say you have to not only listen to your mind, but also to your body, because the body will tell you, the body keeps the score, and the body will tell you if this is a good deal or not. I remember that I was about to sign a contract with a large law firm in 2017 instead of setting up my law firm. One of the ones that didn't, have full traction like this one has. And I was about to sign, and then my body started giving me nauseous, like I was gonna vomit in the signing room, and like in the conference room. And that was for me as clear as it gets to say, thank you so much, but I'm not going to sign. And I left. And I just focused that week in doing a law firm website. And that's how it all started. Just flexibility and the power of adapting. It's critical. What can I tell you?
Enjoying your Omega podcast experience? We want to hear from you. Leave us a comment or visit our website at omegaconsulting.online for more insights, success stories, resources, and more. Digitized for excellence.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned just listening to yourself and being patient throughout the process and not sort of jumping to conclusions or making a decision that you may regret later down the line. I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, they get this huge multi-million dollar merger and acquisition opportunity and they're like, this is great. This is the breakthrough that I need. And then you realize as you go through the process that, wait, we're not on the same page. We don't have the same objectives and goals and organizational goals. And those are things that we need to start looking into, especially if you're going to talk about mergers and acquisitions, being acquired by another business, or maybe even partnering with another organization. It's so important to take that time, that process that you've done to look at all the facts, look at all the resources to make the best decision possible. But just to pivot our conversation, as we're talking about Costa Rica and people migrating there for work, for opportunities, there's this issue that is surrounding digital nomads, right? Where people are moving from different countries to work permanently from another country. Can you share your perspective to people, for instance, from the US moving from Costa Rica or people from Europe moving to Costa Rica? What are sort of the benefits of the globalization in that area or region? And what do you find to be some of the difficulties of people or foreigners moving into other countries that you've noticed?
Well, that's a great question. So I have clients from all over the world, Canadians, Americans, Argentinians, Indians, Germans, from all over the world. And I would say that there are certain things to consider. First of all, never move to a country you never visited before. Don't be stupid. That's a very, very clear. You need to, to explore it, especially if you're going to make a life decision of moving there permanently. Very important to explore it first. I would always say that. And if someone wants to sell you like a service right away without you exploring and feeling it, I think they're not being nice with you. I always tell people you should always come first, see if you like it, if it fills your expectations, because the reality might be different from what you have seen online, I always think it's also important to hire good professionals that have the will to help you in the process, because it can facilitate the process for you in collecting documentations and making sure that the documents you're collected are actually the ones needed. For example, usually for residencies, not for digital nomad, but for residencies, you need to collect FBI criminal records. And some people might say, I'm going to do it myself. And they come up over here with local, like a state level criminal records instead. And that doesn't, that just creates the possibility of being rejected on your application, because Costa Rica immigration system, although it's not as complex as the American system, it can be complicated in the way that if you miss a document, they reject you. It's a little bit like that. It can be drastic. So here you have a lot of people coming over, like CEOs of companies, of tech companies. They like going to Nosara or to the beach Santa Teresa, which are beach towns. A lot of people want to come here from what I've seen, to integrate with nature and take a little bit of a break, to take a little bit of a slower rhythm of what they are used to in their home countries. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it definitely answers the questions. You mentioned that there's better work-life balance in Costa Rica than in other places. One thing that I have discussed in a previous conversation was the issue of being able to learn the language. If you're moving from an English-speaking country to a Spanish-speaking country, you have to pick up the language in order to survive. And for many digital nomads, if they're working for US or maybe European-based companies, they have to not only navigate working a 9 to 5 in another country speaking English, but then once they leave or shut their laptop, they have to then switch to speak Spanish. So, adding that to an area or a factor when they're making a decision to moving, I find to be very important.
People know their way, and digital nomads here, they love it also because they don't have to pay income tax. Like that's one of the benefits that the law gives them. Like whatever they make is free for them of taxes here in Costa Rica. I do have to say something about it because it's an ongoing issue of there are some discussions around it currently about gentrification. So there is some people, especially in the coastal areas, that are protesting about too many immigrants moving to Costa Rica, which makes the housing more expensive for them, which is something that is a larger discussion to analyze. You know, a larger thing, larger phenomenon that even goes to the roots of freedom of liberty and freedom of movement. And I think this could be sorted out at some point at legislative level by adding additional fees for immigrants to move and relocating that fee to social projects, right? Because imagine for a digital nomad to move to Costa Rica is so easy. They just have to pay to the government $100, $115. That's the application fee. You know how much you pay for application fee in the States? So much more than that.
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of inequity when it comes to like application processes, the medium of exchange, from the Costa Rican currency to the US currency. And there's definitely a lot of discrepancies there. What would you say if someone from, let's say, Europe was interested in moving to Costa Rica tomorrow? Can you kind of share what are your thoughts or what are some of the conversations lie for someone to consider in making that particular move?
Well, it depends the type of advice because, for example, I have seen people who don't need any advice. They're so determined and they just say, look, I have been to Costa Rica a couple of times. I want to live there. I like the simplicity of life. I like having organic food on my table and fresh water. And I can tell you cases of clients. For example, there is a client I really, really admire. Very successful tech businessman that is acquiring property in an area of Costa Rica that the land, according to the reviews that they have made, like scientific reviews, we're in the due diligence period, so he took some land and some water. They have given the best results of any land they have evaluated. His goal is to have like a very simple back to nature life, organic farming, and produce everything and have a very healthy life. And this is a person that if he wanted, he could live, I don't know, like in a penthouse in New York. And he wants to come here, set up a house, live with some friends and enjoy his life in a different way. So I find myself very constrained in saying, here are some advice I can give you. But if people ask me direct questions of like what requirements they need for residencies or where could they live, for example, they asked me, hey, I like a party scene, I'm 25, 26, and I like a vibrant place where I can find many boyfriends or girlfriends and go to clubs and party in the jungle, then I would tell them, go to Santa Teresa Beach. That's the mini Tulum. You're going to find a bunch of burners, and a bunch of parties and a lot of digital nomads and Bitcoin bros enjoying life. And if someone asks me, where can I meet like CEOs of companies and millionaire people, go to Nosara. And there is a bunch of San Francisco owner, like these people that own tech companies from San Francisco now living in Nosara. Or someone tells me, look, I want to be more spiritual and connect with meditation, yoga, explore some plant medicine, then go to Vita and Dominical. Pérez Celedón, where you can find those places there and reconnect with those things that you want to connect. Or if someone asks me, hey, is there a possibility to buy property in Costa Rica and get residency? I would tell them yes. If you invest $150,000, you can get a residency. Like this is compared to Europe, you need to invest like $1 million, $2 million sometimes. So immigration to Costa Rica is more easy in that sense.
Absolutely. And I think you've definitely highlighted the benefits of moving. And I'm excited for my trip one day to Costa Rica. I just think as we think about the future, especially with companies becoming more globalized through the use of virtual assistants, AI, digital tools, where do you see there being an opportunity for legal consultants or lawyers as yourself seeing in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you see like AI legal tools?
For sure, like AI is going to displace workers. That's a fact. That's a fact, and it's already displacing workers. I can see it in my even my law firm. Like I get requests for jobs a lot of the times, and the reality is I don't need to have an assistant. I help myself with ChatGPT. That's like one just example. But that does mean that these other people will not be able to set up a law firm. Well, I don't think so. I think that people are still going to need lawyers, and they still going to need lawyers to reassure them, because my job, what I feel, is mostly psychology. Like, people call you to feel reassured of their decisions, to they feel comfortable with their decisions, that they don't feel any fear about their decisions. And law is a trust business. The moment you stop trusting your lawyer, it's no longer your lawyer. That's it. And even though this is going to happen, I think that there's still time to set up a law firm. And what's interesting is how difficult is the entry points nowadays for new competitors. And this was explained by a very successful lawyer here in Costa Rica and in all the Central American region. I would say one of the top 3 lawyers of the region, without a doubt, David Gutierrez from BLP Lawyers. They have offices in Madrid and all Central America. And he was explaining in one class that he gave, I invited him. I was giving a class about how to manage law firms for fifth-year law students in El Salvador. And I invited him as a guest teacher. And he was telling, like, 20 years ago, if a company wanted to hire you, like a multinational, it was much easier. But nowadays, a multinational can only hire law firms if they fulfill certain requirements that are very, very hard to get. Like, you have offices in all the region, you're ranking chambers and partners in 6 different categories, you're this, you're that, So the entry levels for companies are harder. So that's also one of the reasons why I was flexible, like when I saw that it was much harder and much more work for me to earn $1,000 from a company than earn $1,000 from a private person. Okay, I focus on private individuals. You approach them differently than how you approach a company. If you want to be hired by a company, you need to act differently. It's a different approach. So I'm focused on high net worth individuals that need extra VIP attention, and that's what they get, and that's why they keep choosing me. Or individuals, they ask another one and another one and another one, And the great thing about it is, like, you're talking to the boss, You're not talking with the manager that can be replaced by the shareholder assembly, Like, you're the boss.
No, you're definitely talking to the decision makers for sure. And I think that's definitely the best place to be, is you can get the results and the feedback or outcomes that you desire from the primary source. But just to sort of give our audience an opportunity to learn more about who you are and just your upbringing, can you share, from your perspective, some advice that you would give to your younger self when you were starting out as an entrepreneur that you now know? That's a pretty often question that I ask a lot of my guests, but wanted to get your take on it.
I would say to learn French and learn coding and learn SEO. Yeah, that would be a great advice I would have given me 10 years ago.
Yeah, so technical know-how.
More technical know-how, yes. And if I could, I would have told me at 20 to read the Carl Jung autobiography. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll definitely provide that link in the chat for those that are interested in reading that book. But as we reach a closure for our conversation, is there any final thoughts or conclusions that you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. Like, if you're interested in talking about moving to Costa Rica, you can give me a call, or you can reach out to email, to WhatsApp. It's a free call, completely exploratory, to see the different conditions and possibilities that you might have here. It's a great time for coming over for 1 year, for 2 years, explore. You don't need to do too much, just come here as a digital nomad, have like a 1 year free income like a tax break, at least from the Costa Rican perspective. Like if you pay it in your home country, that's your issue. Costa Rica is not going to be playing detective about it, but it's a great place to take a break. That's why there are so many CEOs of big companies coming over and over and over Costa Rica. You can Google Costa Rica and you even see Prince Harry coming over, like J-Lo, Beyonce, artists, like CEOs of companies as well. Costa Rica is a great country in Latin America. Without an army, with the most stable democracy in the Latin American region, and with so much green to explore. It's a country for explorers and people who love the beach and relaxation. And you have a lot of possibilities here, from doing ayahuasca to simply relaxing in a camping site, or go to the Four Seasons. Like you have everything in Costa Rica.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Herman, for being on the Omega podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.